The plants develop from the seeds under natural conditions. The seeds have the embryo, which is developed from a single cell called zygote, and this single cell has all the information to produce a whole plant with roots, shoots, leaves and flowers. Under laboratory conditions, even other cells like a root cell, stem cell or a leaf cell can be induced to develop into a complete plant. This unique property of the plant cells to form a whole plant under artificial conditions is termed as totipotency. In plant tissue culture, this ability of plant cells is explored and utilized to create millions of plants which can later be shifted to field conditions after hardening. The tissues are selected from the young healthy mother plants and are cultured under optimum conditions to regenerate complete plantlets. During their culture period, the cells may opt for any of the two pathways for whole plant regeneration. It can be organogenesis or it can be somatic embryogenesis. In this lecture, we will study about organogenesis pathway for whole plant regeneration. Organogenesis is a process of initiation and development of plant organs like shoots or roots from undifferentiated mass of cells through a process known as cytodifferentiation. The cells develop organogenic potential under the influence of growth regulators like auxins and cytokinins, which are supplied through the nutrient medium. Organogenesis can be achieved in the following steps. The first one is establishment of primary culture. This is the first phase of culture. It is initiated by selection of part of the plant of which multiple plantlets have to be regenerated. This part can be root, nodes, internodes or leaf sections which are excised from healthy mother plants and are now known as explant. The explants are brought to lab conditions and are first washed with water. This is followed by short span rinse with mild detergent. The soap is then removed by continuous rinsing with sterile distilled water until no foam appears. For further steps, the explants are taken to aseptic working chamber, which is a laminar airflow cabinet. This cabinet continuously provides filtered sterile air through high efficiency particulate air filters known as HEPA filters, and to create an environment free of microflora, a UV tube light is also fitted into the cabinet, which is kept on for 15 to 20 minutes prior to inoculation. This sterilizes the working table by killing all the microorganisms. Now, in order to remove the natural microflora from the surface of the explants are sterilized with the help of sterilizants like solutions of mercury chloride, sodium hypochlorite, etc. are used for this purpose. This treatment is done for 3 to 4 minutes, followed by a 30-second rinse with dilute alcohol. All these chemicals are removed from the explant surface by rinsing the explants with sterile distilled water 3 times. After washing, the explants are cut in proper size, approximately 1 centimeter, and inoculated in glasswares containing nutrient medium. Most commonly and successfully used nutrient medium is MS medium, which was designed by Murashid and Skoog in 1964. The media contains macro and micro elements and is supplemented with sucrose and growth regulators like auxins and cytokinins for optimum and regulated growth of plant cells. Once the inoculations are performed under aseptic conditions, the cultures are transferred to culture room under optimum light and temperature conditions. In the culture room, the light requirements of plant cells are fulfilled by white and yellow cool fluorescent tube lights or LED lights. The photo period, that is, the day and night conditions, are set with the help of timers which switch on and off the lights at 16 8-hour interval. The optimum temperature required for plant cells growth is 25 plus minus 2 degrees centigrade, which is maintained with the help of air conditioners. During this course, if the artificial conditions are not suitable, the cells may lose viability and it results in cell death. But once the tissues get established and find the conditions suitable for growth, they re-enter the cell cycle and resume cell division under the influence of growth regulators, auxins and cytokinins. During this course, the cells de-differentiate, that means they lose their specific rooty or shooty property and multiply rapidly to form undifferentiated mass of cells called as callus, and this process is known as calogenesis. During calogenesis, these undifferentiated cells acquire competence or gain capability to follow a particular developmental pathway induced by specific growth regulators. If the callus cells are kept in media which contain more concentration of cytokinins than auxins, the cells gain competence to follow shoot developmental pathway. And if they are kept in media containing more concentration of auxins, the cells follow root developmental pathway. During this process, the cells get enlarged and undergo anticlinal division, giving rise to globular cell clusters called as meristemoids. In later phase, they become irreversibly committed in response to the inductive conditions. That means, once the cells get committed to the shoot induction pathway, they don't divert their pathway even after changing the growth regulators in the media. For example, if the cells are committed to make shoots, then even if the callus is transferred to root induction medium which contains more of auxins, the cells maintain their commitment and give rise to shoots only. At these highly active stages, the nutrient medium gets exhausted and utilized by plant cells very rapidly, and care should be taken to transfer the cells to fresh medium with required growth regulators at regular intervals. This process of transferring cells into fresh medium is known as subculture, and this should be done approximately within every 15 to 20 days of growth period. Once the cells get irreversibly committed to either of the organ formation like shoot or root system, they enter into the differentiation phase. During this phase, the morphological differentiation and development of new organs occur. The meristemoids further divide by periclinal and anticlinal divisions. When the new cell wall is formed parallel to the surface of the tissue, it is said to be periclinal division, and when the newly formed cell wall is perpendicular to the surface of the tissue, it is called as anticlinal division. So, these type of divisions result into the formation of dome shaped shoot meristems along with the formation of new procambial strands. The newly formed strands connect the new organs to their parent explant or callus mass, ultimately leading to regeneration of complete shoots. The development is always unipolar, that is, either a shoot or a root apical meristem is developed, which leads to successive formation of organs. Hence, it is usually preferred to induce shoot formation first by increasing the cytokinin to auxin ratio of the culture medium and then go for root induction, which occurs relatively simply in root inducing medium containing more of auxin than cytokinins. In this way, complete plantlets are regenerated by the organogenesis pathway. Organogenesis can be of two types: direct organogenesis and indirect organogenesis. Let us first study about direct organogenesis. Direct organogenesis bypasses the callus phase. In this process, the shoots or roots primordia are produced directly from the explant tissues. This happens in such tissues which already possess a high endogenous level of growth regulators, and on culturing such explants in a medium supplied with very little amount of cytokinin or auxin leads to direct shoot or root induction from explant cells with very slight or no callus formation. In indirect organogenesis, the cells of the explants first dedifferentiate to form callus and then undergo redifferentiation to form new shoots or roots. That means an intervening callus phase exists between explant tissues and organ formation. On comparing both the type of organogenesis, the regeneration of plantlets through direct organogenesis occurs rapidly as compared to indirect organogenesis, because an intervening callus phase exists which enhances the time period for total plant regeneration. But on the other hand, high frequency multiple number of plantlets can be regenerated through indirect organogenesis due to the availability of huge mass of cells which is obtained in the form of callus. Another aspect associated with indirect regeneration is the spontaneous occurrence of variation in callus cells, which arise due to the prolonged exposure of naked cells to radiations and chemicals. The variations or changes may occur with regard to ploidy, morphology, growth rates, etc. Looking at the brighter side, the regenerants obtained from such type of cells may possess superior or improved characters to the parent or may develop resistance towards diseases. These plants with variable or unique features are known as somaclonal variants. Some beneficial somaclonal variants of sugarcane, tomato, potato, etc. have been obtained through tissue culture and are commercialized in the form of new varieties. The in vitro raised plants obtained through direct or indirect organogenesis are delicate and are unfit for survival in harsh natural conditions, as they have poor control of water loss and are into heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Therefore, gradual acclimatization of these plants is necessary to survive the transition from culture to the greenhouse and to the field conditions. This journey of plants from lab to land is tough and is time consuming, and moreover the commercial benefit largely depends on the ability to transfer plants from lab to land on a large scale at low cost and with high survival rates. They are then shifted to pots with autoclaved soil and are kept covered by transparent sheets wrapped around them to maintain humidity. Gradually, they are transferred to greenhouse or polyhouse, and finally, the plants which survive during this course are transferred to field conditions. The regenerated plants thus obtained through organogenesis pathway are required to be well taken care of and skillfully handled in order to obtain maximum survival percentage in natural conditions. Now let us know about the factors affecting organogenesis. The first factor is growth regulators, which are auxins and cytokinins. The growth regulators play a very important role in initiation and development of organs from callus cells. As formulated by Skoog and co-workers, the ratio of auxins and cytokinins primarily affect the formation of organs rather than their absolute concentrations. A higher concentration of auxin relative to cytokinin promotes cell division and or root differentiation. On the other hand, higher concentrations of cytokinins than auxins promote cell division and or shoot differentiation. Thus, shoot root differentiation in callus can be attributed to the function of quantitative interaction between auxins and cytokinins rather than the amount or the total concentrations of each growth regulator used. However, there are exceptions to the above formula of ratio of auxins and cytokinins. There are cases where the response varies and does not go according to the above said quantitative interaction of auxins and cytokinins. This variation may be due to the degree of cell sensitivity towards growth regulators or the endogenous levels of active growth regulator molecules, that is the type of auxin and cytokinin used. The next factor which affect the organogenesis is explant. The regeneration ability of the various explants is influenced by the organ from which the explant is derived. That means the response varies with the type of explant selected. The callus from different explants, that is sections taken from leaf or stem, root and cotyledon, produce callus with marked difference. Explants derived from the hypocotyl exhibit higher potentiality for shoot formation than the root segments. On the other hand, cotyledons were found to be the best explant for plant regeneration in lettuce, that is Lectuca sativa. In this species, even the response varied with the region of the cotyledon explant. The best region for direct shoot regeneration on cotyledon explants was found to be the portion near to petiolate end of cotyledons, and multiple direct shoots were formed at the region near to petiole of cotyledons within 21 days of culture initiation. Next factor is the physiological state of the explant. The physiological stage of the explant is correlated to the age of the donor plant. Generally, young, juvenile and meristematic tissues readily respond to culture conditions, while mature and highly differentiated explants fail to show such a quick response. This is especially true for cereals and tree species. Another factor related to explant response to tissue culture is the orientation of the explant on the medium. Placing the explant with the upper or lower surface in contact with the medium also play an important role in organogenesis. For example, planting the cotyledons with their abaxial surface in contact of the medium gave best response in Brassica juncea. Next factor which affect organogenesis is the genotype of the plant system. Like growth regulators, the genotype equally plays a critical role in cytodifferentiation. The response for plant regeneration varies with varieties, within the varieties and also in outbreeding species. For example, different cultivars of alfalfa exhibited variation in regeneration potential when cultured in the same culture conditions. In tomato also, intervarietal differences were observed in percentage of root and shoot induction. Now let us know about the physical factors which affect organogenesis. The physical condition of nutrient medium like solid state or liquid state has shown a marked influence on shoot regeneration. For some species like tobacco, shoot bud formation increased with decrease in agar concentration. Light in its quality and quantity also play a crucial role in shoot bud induction. In tobacco, blue light promoted shoot bud differentiation and red light stimulated root induction. In Bacopa monnieri, yellow light favors frequent shoot bud induction, whereas in Celastrus paniculatus, red light promoted the same. Hence, variable light treatments produce marked difference on organogenesis. Similarly, quantity of light too affect the response. For example, in tobacco, high light intensity inhibited shoot bud formation and low light promoted it. Photoperiod also play an important role. Generally, 16 to 8 hours of light dark period is optimum for shoot differentiation. In Pelargonium hortorum, 15 to 16 hours of light alternated with dark periods was found necessary for shoot differentiation from callus. When the same callus was maintained under continuous light, it remained whitish and did not exhibit organogenesis. There are various such cases reported where photoperiod is required must for the effective response. Temperature also affects the shoot bud development. Generally, 25 plus minus 2 degrees centigrade is optimum for normal growth of plant cells. It varies with plant species. For example, in tobacco, callus growth and differentiation increased with rise in temperature up to 33 degrees centigrade, but for shoot bud differentiation it was observed that lower temperature approximately 18 degrees centigrade was optimum and gave rise to shoot induction. On the other hand, no bud formation occurred when temperature was set at 33 degrees centigrade. Another factor which affects organogenesis is electrical stimulation. This factor is sometimes utilized to obtain enhanced shoot bud regeneration by the application of weak electric current. In tobacco, shoot bud differentiation was increased up to 5-fold when 1 microampere current was applied on callus cells. Organogenesis has various advantages compared to traditional propagation and other in vitro propagation systems. The first one is multiple shoot production can be obtained by this process for large scale production of plants. Also, indirect organogenesis provides more chances for selection of beneficial soma-clonal variants. The survival rate is higher among plantlets produced via organogenesis. Organogenesis is more easily achieved in most of these species, and this forms the basis for transformation protocols. We can conclude that organogenesis, whether direct or indirect, is beneficial for commercial production of quality plantlets. These methods are being successfully implemented for production and propagation of valuable crops.